cooperation from everybody. I'm moving on now to leaders' questions under Standing Order 36, and today it will be the Minister for Finance, Deputy Paschal O'Donoghue, who's taken the questions. So we'll just give the Minister a chance to get into his seat. As always, Impim Orivsha, Clee, Lena Shrinta, Amma Moshe the Hella.
Ara tan scanal hiú cúti dat chaili at a crete ig Mica agus Pearse golaré go fáil. Agus Willem ar fád na scialtiú na chaili agus an ser job at a jantaku a god punchy trasna le linyan facta seo. An cuigil a deag da bhí bheith ara haki tissa agus an rialtas le rúno sin féin a hogu céad fan géad cútiú don na daoine seo. Ag tigim ó bheith cantla a réir na bhfuil tú héin na bhfuil tú héin lá go fáil agus nar thug tú cuairte na cantratha seo leis an scanil seo agus an breisiú crí ceall de chéin agus tugann siad an corú deid seo a dhéanú inis. Minister, I want to raise with you today the issue of Mica and of Pyrite and the redress scheme, which is currently the subject of discussion between various government departments, and we understand including your own. The families involved are living in homes that are literally crumbling around them. And that's a result of light touch regulation, it's a result of no regulation during the Celtic Tiger period. And I think it's important to say again that none of this, absolutely none of this, is the fault of those families concerned. Their campaign, I'm sure we can all agree in this House, has touched the hearts of many people throughout the state. They've shown great resolve in their campaign for justice and for 100% redress. And they've laid out their case. They've opened up their hearts, they've told their own personal stories to the entire nation. And now they need the government to step up for them. They need the government to have their back, to be in their corner, and that includes yourself. On the 15th of June, this Dáil unanimously voted for a motion which mandates the government to deliver 100% redress. Minister, you supported that motion, and now you need to deliver on it. I'm aware from those involved and those who I spoke to last night that you haven't thus far had the opportunity to meet with them or to visit the areas affected. And the families would like to extend to you that opportunity before you sit down at Cabinet table and make a decision on this matter. So I'm asking you on behalf of the families affected in Donegal and elsewhere, will you take up that offer from them to meet with those affected and ideally to visit the areas affected? They have said that they will meet with you anytime, anywhere, in person or online, and I think that you should do that and do that before you sit down to make a decision. The other key issue here at play is who will manage the scheme if it's agreed and acceptable to those involved. The families are very clear in this. They want the housing agency to manage this from start to finish, and that has numerous benefits which you should be concerned about, not least the benefits of economies of scale, which will help deliver better value for money. And the opposite of that is that it would leave those devastated, those crushed families competing for materials, for personnel, and at the mercy of construction inflation. So, Minister, just like with the Pirate Resolution Scheme in Leinster, the Housing Agency, with their proven expertise, should be tasked with the responsibility of project managing the restoration of the affected homes in partnership with the families, from the tendering of works to the appointment of contractors, to ensuring quality and to providing, right through to providing a state guarantee for the works to the families. So can I ask you your opinion? Do you believe that the Housing Agency should be responsible for managing this, delivering better value for money, dealing with economies for scale and ensuring the quality? And will you take up the offer that the families have asked me to make to you to meet with them in person or preferably at the locations to see physically? Because none of us, even including those who live in the counties most affected, can't understand or wouldn't be able to comprehend the scale of this until you actually hear what it means to those families living in those houses, until you reach into those blocks which crumble in your hands, until you talk to the children about how they aren't having a normal childhood, and that offer is being extended to you today.
Thank you very much, Las Concorda. Thank you, Deputy Doherty, for raising this immensely important issue. I want to begin by, of course, acknowledging the extraordinary trauma, anxiety and stress that all those who've been afflicted by the awful change in the building blocks of their homes in front of them have confronted and endured. I, of course, have been aware of this issue because I worked as a member of the last government to bring forward the scheme, which the government, of course, now accepts in light of the continuing challenges that these families face, needs to be strengthened. This is why I'm working very closely with Minister Darragh O'Brien on a regular basis on this matter. The government is committed to bringing forward a strengthened scheme to respond back to the anguish, to the human need and to the basic need for stability and safety about a family home, which we all know how important that is to families all over our country. We are committed to bringing that forward. What we are working on at the moment, Deputy Doherty, is we have to acknowledge that in addition to the huge need that that other deputies have raised here, whether it be Deputy McHugh, whether it be Minister McConalogue, we're also aware that the cost in relation to dealing with this issue is very significant. We're aware not just of the challenges of Mica, but other challenges across the country in relation to how homes have been built and what their future is. And we as a government need to ensure that we are confident that we are dealing with this in a way that meets the needs that are being raised with us by those families directly, while also being conscious of the cost involved in this, and also dealing with the important point that Deputy Doherty has raised, which is the issue of how such a scheme is administered and how it is delivered, not only in your community, Deputy, but in potentially other communities that are afflicted by this issue. So Minister O'Brien and I and Minister McGrath are currently considering this issue. Of course, it is a challenge regarding how we can respond back in a humane, in a compassionate and an effective way, which we're committed to doing. But we will be making this decision conscious of significant amounts of money being spent in relation to this, which we acknowledge needs to happen. And we need to focus in on ensuring that as this money is being spent, it is being done in a way that can deliver speed of execution, can deliver confidence about being able to meet the needs, and does also reflect on what we have learned from how other schemes have been administered across our country, in particular pyrite. So this is an issue that we are working on at the moment. Minister O'Brien and I and Minister McGrath are going to be continuing with our work. We're doing it as quickly as we can. We want to get this right. I'm not sure that if I will have, well, in fact, I know, last Count Call, I won't have the opportunity to travel to Donegal before as we move through this process. But I have met families who've been afflicted by this. I am aware of the horror when a home turns into a property that is falling down in front of your eyes. Of course, I'm aware of the anxiety that is causing and the deep and profound stress. But Minister O'Brien has met the families that are involved in this on many occasions. He has concluded a process that began in the end of June, that lasted all the way up to the end of September. And I know he has been in regular and indirect contact with many of the families that are very active on this issue. So we will, of course, be guided by the input that they're giving, recognising the scale of the issue, but also we do have to be conscious of the funding that will be involved in this, and indeed dealing with the execution issue and the governance issue, which Deputy Doherty correctly raised.
You mentioned learning the lessons from pyrite and looking at the examples. The Housing Agency took that project on. They are the only agency that can do this properly. We should not force families who are at their wits' ends to be competing for developers, prices, tenders and all of the rest. I would ask your view. As Minister for Finance, you obviously need to have a view in relation to this. The families are well aware of your busy schedule, Minister, but they're also well aware that you are a key person as Minister for Finance in relation to the scheme that could address and lift the burden off those families, or indeed could leave many, many of them behind. So they are appealing to you, anytime, anywhere, online or in person, to meet with them before you sit at Cabinet table and make the decision. I think that's a fair request from the families. I would really encourage you to take up that offer. These are families, as you know, that are at the wits' end. These are families who have won the hearts of this nation. These are families who are expecting this government to have their back. They did not cause this problem. This was light touch regulation and no regulation. This was Celtic Tiger area, and these homes are literally falling apart. So please, will you take up that offer? Will you give an answer to meet with the families online or in person over the next number of days?
Thank you very much, Lascan Corla. Thank you again, Deputy. The last thing that I'm concerned about is, of course, my schedule, busy or not. All that matters is that how we as a government can meet the needs that are being raised in the House by Deputy Doherty and others, do so in a compassionate and in a fair way, while also being conscious that the funding that has been involved here, the commitment on behalf of the Exchequer, is very, very significant. And Minister O'Brien, myself, Minister McGrath are aware that as we deal with this issue, we may well have other challenges that we need to respond to in terms of the future of building within our country, and we're aiming to get that balance right. Deputy Doherty, I can assure you I am absolutely aware of the human need that you were referring to here, and the government will be doing all we can now to conclude on a process that aims to respond to this issue.
They've asked me to ask you to meet them with respect.
Deputy Doherty,
thank you, Minister. We're over time.
With respect, this is families, thousands of them that came to the streets of Dublin twice. Minister, you should respond to whether you will meet with them or not. It's unfair on the families.